woman is very, very dangerous.
What is happening?
Lock, you and I.
If you knew what I knew,
Oh my God.
you take that gun and you shoot right now.
Most dating horror stories end in ghosting. This one ends in a blood-soaked sex demon. Today we're diving into Succubus, a cautionary tale for the emotionally vulnerable and the chronically horny. One minute you're venting about your failed startup, and the next, you're stuck in a psychic meat locker while your bro gets flayed mid-coitus by a demon with great Wi-Fi. Let's get into it. The plot. The film opens not with a scare but with a confession. A grainy video plays. Dr. Orion Zephyr, a weathered, intense man played by Ron Perlman, speaks directly into the lens. He's not ranting, he's pleading. He tells someone named Jeannie that if she's watching this, it means something has already gone wrong. He anticipates the backlash, what they're going to say about me, but urges her to publish his research. He believes that if she shares what he's discovered, someone else can be saved. He ends the recording with a teary apology. "I love you, I'm sorry." Then silence. We then cut to Chris Johnson, a soft-spoken startup founder who's crashing harder than FTX stock. His company's tanking, his marriage is on life support, and his daily victories involve successfully heating breast milk without crying. Sharon, his estranged wife, is living her best life, or trying to, via mimosas, bachelorette weekends, and Instagram captions about rediscovering herself. Their convos are pure co-parenting autopilot. Baby monitors, shared calendars, and the ever-iconic "Did you remember to update the password?" Chris is circling the emotional drain. He's got that haunted, sleep-deprived look of a man who's both too soft for a custody battle and too sad for tender. So, naturally, his wingman is Eddie, a walking Axe body spray ad who thinks the solution to everything is booze, bro talk, and banging. Eddie's the kind of guy who unironically says sexual tune-up and thinks women are just side quests. He helps himself to Chris's phone, sets up a dating profile on Starcrossed because, of course it's called that, and uploads every rugged photo from Chris's pre-divorce hiking phase. There's even a shirtless camping pic. Eddie calls it approachable but manly. I call it desperation in HD. Eventually Chris gives in, because if you can't fix your life, why not swipe right on someone else's? That night, while his baby monitor hisses like a background demon and the glow of existential dread fills the room, Chris starts swiping. It's everything he feared. Vapid, soulless, and somehow hornier than helpful. Until, ding, you have a message. And just like that, she appears. Her name? Adra. Her profile picture is ethereal. Not sexy in a conventional way, but haunting. And Chris, being both lonely and emotionally vulnerable, taps open chat. At first, it's all dating app banter. Flirty, awkward, a little too many emojis, but then Adra throws a curveball. She asks for a video chat. Now this is either brave or a trap. Chris answers. The feed flickers to life, and there she is, Adra. Except she doesn't speak. Instead, she types. While on video, claims she's lost her voice. Wears sunglasses like she's hiding from paparazzi or a full moon. Her face? Smoothed into uncanny perfection. Think Snapchat filter meets porcelain doll. When Chris asks her to ditch the filter, she deflects, and that should be the red flag to end all red flags, but instead of running, our boy gets hooked. Because Adra? She listens. Like, really listens. Not just nodding along while waiting to talk, but absorbing every syllable, like she's feeding on his insecurities. And feed she does. Chris spills everything. The stress, the failure, the dad guilt, that annoying eye twitch that says I cry in Whole Foods. Adra just types, "You're only human." Validation? That's catnip for broken men. Then things get spicy. Adra sends a video. Seductive, filtered, slow. No words, just breathy whispers, and the kind of vibes you shouldn't watch with your baby monitor still on. Now she's in his head, his phone, his bloodstream. That's when the first real red flag drops, not from her, but from someone else. Enter Dr. Orion Zephyr. Yeah, that Orion Zephyr. Remember him from the tearful monologue? Turns out he's still alive, still warning, still haunted. He sends Chris a message. Adra isn't human. Chris does what every horror protagonist does when confronted with free, life-saving advice from a guy who clearly knows too much. He ignores it. Worse, he Googles Orion and finds dirt, accusations of harassment involving a female student. Chris jumps to conclusions. Adra was the student, Orion's the predator. End of story. He blocks the doc. Message received, but twisted. Except that seed of doubt, it's now growing roots. During a later chat, Chris casually says the forbidden name, Orion. Adra freezes. Not figuratively, literally, like her bandwidth got possessed. Then the typing starts, frantic, unhinged. She begs him to block Orion again, claims she's in danger, being hunted. At the exact same time, because timing is a malicious little demon, Chris gets another email, this time with an attachment. Security cam footage. A man convulsing, twisting, then something bursts out of him. Not blood, not guts, something black, pulsating. Wrong. Chris can't tell if he's watching a breakdown or a birth. Later that night, he's back with Adra, and this time she's done hiding. She removes her sunglasses. Her eyes are perfect, green, hypnotic, inhuman. The air around her shimmers, her face flickers, the light dims, and just like that, Chris is gone. Not dead, not offline, just not here anymore. He wakes up in a room that isn't real, a red room. No windows, no doors, just walls that feel like skin and a silence that hums. He's officially crossed over, not into love, not into madness, into something else. So Chris is stuck in psychic purgatory, possessed by a succubus he met through a cursed version of Tinder. Honestly, this is what every How We Met story on Reddit should be. Dr. Orion Zephyr, our ghost of scientific Christmas past, starts breaking through the fog. He's Chris's only tether to reality now, whispering through the static like a demented Siri with a PhD. He explains that Adra didn't physically seduce Chris. She infiltrated him during a vulnerable moment of solo sadness. Yep, she rode the wavelength of his, self-reflection. Turns out succubi don't need to show up in person when you're just a Wi-Fi signal and a tragic boner away from the astral plane. Zephyr gives Chris one last mental lifeline. Unfocus your eyes, look through the wall, see beyond the illusion. Chris blinks. He sees his desk, his baby's room, real life, hope. But then the real horror hits. Eddie. That walking spray tan of bad decisions has tracked Adra down, and he's already bragging about his hot date. Chris calls him, screaming, begging, but Eddie's too deep, too entranced, too horny to live. Inside Adra's lair, Eddie finds her lying on a bed, silhouetted, horns curling like the world's worst red flag. Her voice isn't seductive, it's a melodic death curse that whispers every insecurity he's ever buried. He pulls back the covers, expecting a Victoria's Secret model. Instead, he finds a Lovecraftian nightmare, a writhing, faceless, slime-drenched terror, like if a jellyfish and a trauma bond had a baby. But Eddie, he's already gone. Not physically, mentally. She tells him he's perfect, that no one understands him like she does. As they connect, his face contorts in ecstasy, and then, just like that, he slumps, lifeless. Adra rips him apart like wet tissue paper, blood everywhere. She bathes in it, then looks directly into the camera, and into Chris's soul. Bitch knows how to work a webcam. Chris screams, but he's still stuck. Suddenly, a miracle. Dr. Zephyr busts into Chris's house like Van Helsing with tenure. He finds Chris mid-trance, baby crying in the background, and knows there's only one way out. He places a gun in Chris's hand. But before Chris can pull the trigger, bam, Sharon returns. Zephyr vanishes like a cursed hallucination. Sharon shakes Chris awake. He gasps, alive. Is it over? Of course not. This is Succubus, baby. Chris and Sharon try to pick up the pieces. There's laughter, reconnection, hints of a second chance. But late one night during a moment of intimacy, Adra returns. She's still inside him. And Chris, he takes the final horrific step. He grabs a knife and slices his own dick open. Yes, you heard that right. He mutilates himself in a desperate, agonizing bid to sever her psychic grip, and collapses into a coma. Months later, his mother and Sharon visit the hospital bed. He's catatonic, a shell, barely there. And then Sharon drops the horror cherry on top. She's pregnant. A single tear escapes Chris's lifeless eye. Adra isn't done. She's just getting started. Cinematography and sound design. From the first grainy handheld video confession to the surreal blood-soaked climax, Succubus plays like your worst Zoom call fused with a fever dream. This isn't just horror through the lens, it's horror that is the lens. The filmmakers lean into this screen lifestyle made famous by movies like Searching, The Den, and Host. But where those relied on tension and glitches, Succubus weaponizes intimacy. Director R.J. Daniel Hanna keeps the camera uncomfortably close, sometimes literally in Chris's face, or watching from the baby monitor, like a voyeuristic demon. There's a constant feeling of being watched by your own devices. It's voyeurism flipped inward, and it works. We feel trapped with Chris, not just watching him spiral, we're in the spiral. The cinematography morphs as the story descends. Early scenes are lit like a gloomy IKEA catalog. Neutral, soft, and suffocatingly real. But once Adra starts sinking her claws in, the lighting shifts, glitches appear, colors distort, shadows throb. The digital artifacts themselves become part of the horror, like the demon is messing with the bitrate of your soul. By the time Chris hits the red room, the visuals go full Lynchian nightmare meets Windows 98 crash. It's ethereal, hellish, and mesmerizing. And then there's the sound. Succubus is what happens when ASMR turns demonic. The audio design is subtle but insidious. Adra's voice is barely more than a breath. Seductive, whispery, like a lullaby whispered through a fan. It gets in your head and stays. When the glitchy distortion kicks in, it's not loud, it's soft, wrong, and layered with what sounds like whispers in reverse. Chef's kiss. The score is minimalistic but purposeful, more ambiance than music. It slinks beneath scenes like a predator, never drawing attention to itself until it needs to, and when things go full supernatural, it punches you with infrasound dread and distorted lullabies. Big shout out to the VFX team too, sparing but surgical. They don't go full Marvel, they go menace. Whether it's Adra's subtle facial warping mid-orgasmic possession, or the "is that a glitch or a demon" effects on the walls, the visual effects serve the story, not spectacle. Bottom line, Succubus looks and sounds like a haunted FaceTime from the underworld, and that's exactly the vibe it needed. Acting and character behavior. Let's give credit where it's due. Ron Perlman delivers a powerhouse cameo as Dr. Orion Zephyr. With that gravelly voice and biblical intensity, he could read a cereal box and make it sound like an omen. But let's be honest, he's barely in the film. Less than 15 minutes of screen time, and that includes some heavy breathing. Still, he's the kind of actor who can make "I'm sorry" sound like a prophecy. You want more of him? You don't get it? We riot. Brendan Bradley as Chris is the film's real MVP. He's vulnerable, anxious, and believably unraveling. But there are moments where his delivery leans a little too indie dramatic, like he wandered in from a Sundance divorce movie and never got the memo this was supernatural horror. That said, when the madness kicks in, Bradley sells it. Watching his emotional collapse is like witnessing a TED Talk on trauma, slowly morph into a seance. Rachel Cook's Adra is the digital devil in disguise, and she mostly kills it. Seductive when she needs to be, chilling when the filter drops. Her biggest strength is restraint. She never oversells the evil until she has to, but early on, her flat effect sometimes veers too close to influencer reading cue cards territory. A few lines sound like she learned them from a breathy YouTube meditation video. Still, when the switch flips, Cook becomes terrifyingly memorable. Now Derek Smith's Eddie. Look, Eddie is comic relief, the bros before demons archetype. He's supposed to be obnoxious, but sometimes he's too much. Like someone fed Jason Mewes 5 monster energy drinks and dared him to improv every line. Some scenes feel like deleted footage from a frat-themed improv class. You get the sense the actor had fun, maybe too much fun. His arc ends brutally, and honestly, by then, we're okay with that. Supporting cast, like Olivia Applegate, Sharon, and Rosanna Arquette, are solid, but underused. Sharon is written as more of a concept than a character, estranged wife with a side of resentment. But Applegate does what she can. Arquette barely gets enough screen time to register, but she lends a welcome gravitas to the small moments she's given. So yes, the cast is uneven. Some shine, some sputter. Fear factor score. Okay, let's be real. Succubus isn't out here trying to make you wet the bed or scream into your popcorn. It's not jump scare city or splattercore chaos. No chainsaws, no possessed dolls, no masked slashers hiding in the closet. What it is unnerving. The fear in Succubus is slow, sticky, and psychological, the kind of horror that taps you on the shoulder when you're alone at 2 a.m., rewatching an old Instagram DM and wondering if you're the villain. It's about seduction, manipulation, and the horror of losing control, not just of your body, but your mind. The standout terror? That hypnotic dreamlike stasis Chris gets trapped in, where he can see glimpses of the real world but can't break free. It's the horror equivalent of being lucid in your own nightmare. You're screaming internally and no one can hear you. That sunken place energy, a la Get Out, but with way more lube and fewer metaphors. That's why this film lands at a fear factor of 5.8. Hypnotic hellscape. Not a full-on panic attack, but deeply disquieting. You won't scream, but you will squirm. It's horror by erosion. You start the movie grounded in reality. Diapers, FaceTime calls, startup woes, and before you realize it, you're neck-deep in spiritual possession and cybernetic demon sex, and somehow you barely noticed the descent. The kills? Sparse, but disturbing. Eddie's fate is the standout, a grotesque, seductive unraveling that's more emotionally horrifying than gore-splattered. It doesn't shock you with violence, it seduces you into watching it happen. Even the ending doesn't go for the jugular. Instead, it leaves you with a lingering existential "oh no," as Chris lies comatose, mutilated, and possibly father to a demon baby. The final image isn't terror, it's a tragedy, and that makes it worse. So while it won't make you sleep with the lights on, Succubus will make you side-eye your phone the next time you get a late-night DM from someone with no mutual friends and too much eye contact in their profile pic. Final verdict. Succubus is the horror equivalent of a whisper that turns into a scream inside your head. It's not flashy, not loud, and definitely not trying to win over the slasher crowd. But what it is insidious. It plants a seed of unease and waters it with dread until you're quietly horrified by how far things have gone. It's a movie that teases you for nearly half its runtime with broy banter, screen life antics, and a setup that almost feels like a rom-com for depressed tech dads. But once Adra reveals her true form, oh man, it pivots into something way more cerebral, surreal, and emotionally devastating. The payoff isn't explosive, it's existential. The film could easily have leaned too hard into camp or trauma porn, but instead it walks a surprisingly careful tightrope between horror and sadness. It's lonelyguy.exe meets demon.exe, and it works better than it has any right to. Ron Perlman's limited screen time? A shame, but his presence still haunts the movie like a moral compass pointing due oh shit. Brendan Bradley absolutely carries the emotional weight, and Rachel Cook plays Adra with terrifying grace. Seductive but uncanny. Relatable but wrong. It's a cast that doesn't overact, which makes everything feel more real and more dangerous. The biggest critique? Pacing. The first 45 minutes demand patience, and not every horror fan is built for the slow burn. But if you hang in there, the second half rewards you with a twisted, thoughtful descent into tech-fueled doom and a final act that's more Greek tragedy than gorefest. Succubus is the kind of horror that doesn't slap you. It seduces you, slowly, until you realize you're in bed with a nightmare. It's smart, it's strange, and it'll make you think twice before clicking accept all at 3 a.m. So, should you watch it? If you like your horror uncomfortable, hypnotic, and dripping with sexual tension and metaphorical slime, this one's worth your time. If you liked the breakdown, give it a like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment with your wildest horror dating story, or your weirdest online flirt gone wrong.